Panic gripped her heart as she realized the river had seen through her disguise. Amara was stuck in prisoner of her own choices, and as the reality of her situation dawned on her. Once upon a time, in a small African village, there was a family known by all. Mazi, the head of the family, had two wives, Oge and Oluchi. Each of them had one daughter. Oge's daughter Ugo was pretty, but Oluchi's daughter Amara was something else. Her beauty was like the bright moon in the sky. Even everyone in the village couldn't stop talking about her, especially after the prince himself saw her and decided he would marry her when she was old enough. But as you can guess, not everyone was happy about this. Oge's, the first wife, was filled with envy. She believed her daughter Ugo deserved the prince's attention, not Amara. Oge never hid her feelings about this. She was always cold and distant to Amara. Everyone saw this, but nobody said anything, but never talked about openly. The prince, young and noble, only had eyes for Amara. Whenever he came through the village, he looked only for her, but Amara. She was a simple girl. She loved playing with her friends, helping her mother Oluchi, and dreaming under the starry sky. She never really understood how much the prince admired her. But in Oge's heart, a plan was brewing, a plan born from envy and bitterness, a plan to turn the tides in her daughter's favor. Little did Amara know that her stepmother's envy would soon turn her simple, joyful life into a twisted tale of deceit and struggle. The village, a place of laughter and community, was about to witness a story that told for generations to come. One day, Oge, with a heart heavy with jealousy, cooked up a cunning plan. She wanted to spoil Amara's good name, to dim the light that shone so bright around her. So what did she do? She took one of her most precious pieces of jewel, a necklace that sparkled like the morning sun, and hid it in a pile of clothes that Amara supposed to wash at the river. It was sneaky move, one that she hoped would stain Amara's reputation in the eyes of the village and the prince. Amara, innocent and unaware of this storm brewing, took the clothes to the river. She was humming a happy tune, washing the clothes in the cool water. But as she reached deep into the pocket of one garment, her fingers touched something unexpected. It was the necklace, shining with an accusing glare. Amara's heart skipped a beat. Confusion and worry. This wasn't hers. It had to be her stepmother's. With a heart full of innocence, she decided to return the necklace to Oge. After finishing her chores, she thought of how worried her stepmother must be, losing something so valuable. In her mind, returning the jewelry was the right thing to do, a simple act of honesty. But little did she know, she was walking right into the trap set by Oge. When Amara got back home, ready to explain this strange discovery, Oge was waiting, but instead of being grateful, he started shouting, accusing Amara of stealing the necklace. "Thief, thief," she cried, drawing a crowd. The villagers gathered curiously and concerned. Amara, scared and shocked, tried to explain. "I found it in the laundry. I didn't steal it," she said. But Oge kept weaving her trail of deceit, painting Amara as a cunning thief. Just when things looked really bad for Amara, her mother Ugochi stepped in. She had been watching the whole scene unfold from her window with a calm and steady voice. She revealed the truth. "I saw Oge hide that necklace in the laundry," she declared, her eyes never leaving Oge's. The crowd murmured, the tide of opinion shifting them from the gathering voices of support rose for Amara. Villagers who were at the river when Amara found the necklace spoke up. "She is telling the truth," one said. "We saw how when she found it in the clothes," another added. The truth was clear as the day, and the crowd's murmur turned into a chorus of disapproval against Oge. Caught in her own web of lies, Oge tried to deny it, but it was no use. Amara's innocence was proven, and the villagers embraced her. Her reputation untarnished, the incident left a deep mark on the village. Trust was broken and the bond between the two families strained. But for Amara, it was a moment of vindication. She had faced an unjust accusation and marched with her integrity intact. However, the ordeal was far from over. Oge's heart had turned even darker, with her plans foiled, and she began to plot an even more sinister scheme. The village once place of money based a stage for a bit of rivalry, with Amara unknowing at its center. Now in this village, every year there was a festival that brought everyone together. It was a time of joy, of dancing, of forgetting one's troubles under the moonlight sky. But there was one rule during this festival that everyone young and old knew: well, on the first day of the festival, no girl was to visit the river. It was a taboo, a rule set by the ancestors, and it was believed that breaking it would bring bad luck or worse. As the festival drew near, the village burst with excitement. Decorations were hung, drums were raided, and stories of the past festivals were shared. But in Oge's heart, there was no excitement, only a burning desire for revenge. She saw an opportunity in this festival, a chance to harm Amara and get her out of the way. The night before the festival, when the air was thick with anticipation, Oge hatched her plan. She called Amara, her voice sweet as honey, a stark contrast to her usual tone. "Amara, dear," she said, "I need you to go to the river tomorrow morning. I need fresh water for the festival." Amara's eyes widened in disbelief. "But stepmother, tomorrow is the first day of the festival. It's forbidden for me to go to the river," she said. She protested. Oge insisted, her words laced with false concern. "It's just a silly old tradition. Nothing will happen. And if you don't go, I will make sure your life here becomes unbearable," she threatens. Amara, trapped between a rock and a hard place, felt a heavy weight in her heart. She knew the consequences of breaking the taboo, yet she feared defying her stepmother. That night, Amara couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned, her mind racing with fear and worry. The river, always a source of life and joy, now seemed like a gasping mouth waiting to swallow her. She thought of disguising herself or somehow tricking the river's spirit. But deep down, she knew there was no fooling the forces of nature. As dawn broke, casting a golden glow over the village, Amara faced a choice that weighed heavy on her young heart. She knew the sacred taboo of the festival: no girl was to step near the river on the first day of the 7 days. It was a rule as old as the hills that circled the village, respected and followed by all. But her stepmother, Oge, with eyes clouded by malice, had given her an ultimatum that filled her with dread. Amara had initially stood her ground, refusing to go against the tradition of her people. "I cannot go, stepmother. It's forbidden," she had said, her voice quivering but firm. But Oge was unyielding, her threat veiled but clear. "If you don't go, you'll regret it." Oge hissed her words like the sting of a scorpion. Amara felt trapped, torn between respecting the age-old custom and the fear of her stepmother's wrath. As the village stirred to life, unaware of the turmoil in Amara's heart, she made a desperate decision. If she had to go to the river, she would do so not as a girl, but as a boy in her mind. It was a way to fool the spirit, to protect herself from the curse. She rummaged through her father's clothes and found an oversized shirt and trousers, disguised in this. With her head tucked under a cap, she hoped the river would not recognize her as a girl who dared defy the taboo with a heart pounding like the drum that would soon sound. In the festival, Amara set out for the river. The path, usually familiar and comforting, now seemed ominous. Each step heavy with the weight of her decision. The chirping of the birds and the rustling of the leaves sounded like whispered warnings. As she reached the river, the normally welcoming waters looked back at her with a cold, unforgiving gaze. She hesitated for a moment, looking at her reflection in the water. A girl disguised as a boy, caught between fear and duty. With a deep breath, she filled her pot with water, every moment feeling like an eternity. But as she turned to leave, a strange sensation gripped her. Her feet, which should have carried her back home, were rooted to the spot, immovable, as if the earth itself held them. Panic gripped her heart as she realized the river had seen through her disguise. Amara was stuck, a prisoner of her own choices, and as the reality of her situation dawned on her, a single desperate cry for help escaped her lips, echoing across the stillness of the river. The morning sun rose higher, casting its warm glow over the village. But for Amara, trapped by the river, the light brought no comfort. Despite her clever disguise, the river had seen through her its ancient spirit, as old as the land itself, recognized her as a girl who dared to break the sacred taboo. Her feet, they were bound to the earth by invisible chains, refused to move. Fear and despair welled up inside her as she realized the gravity of her predicament. Word of Amara's plight spread through the village like wildfire. Men who were allowed by tradition to visit the river during the festival found her there, stuck and helpless. They tried to free her, but it was as if the river itself held her in place. Whispers and murmurs ran through the crowd that gathered. The river has caught her, they said, a mix of pity and fear in their voices. Oge, upon hearing the news, rushed to the scene, pretending to be concerned, but secretly rejoicing, thinking her plan had worked. She had succeeded, she said to herself. She had wanted to bring Amara down, to remove her from the prince's affection, and now fate had played into her hands. To the villagers, she appeared as a concerned stepmother, wringing her hands, her voice trembling with fear for her stepdaughter. But inside her, she rejoiced, believing her plan had succeeded. As the day turned to evening, and the evening into night, Amara remained stuck. The villagers returned to their homes, their hearts heavy with the strange turn of events. The festival, usually a time of joy and celebration, was now overshadowed by the misfortune that had befallen the young girl. Amara, left alone by the river, felt the weight of loneliness and despair. The gentle sounds of the flowing water, which had always been a source of peace, now seemed to mock her. The night brought no relief, only the cold embrace of the rivers, cause she closed her eyes, whispering for a miracle, for someone to break the spell that held her captive. In the village, The first day of the festival commenced with less cheer than usual. The drums and songs surrounded them, but they were tinged with sadness. Amara's plight was on everyone's mind, casting a long shadow over what should have been a time of celebration. The river, once a giver of life, had now become a jar, and Amara's, its unfortunate prisoner, for the sun rose on a new day. But in the village, the mood was sober. The festival continued, but the joy was muted, the laughter tinged with sadness. Meanwhile, Oluchi, Amara's mother, returned from her journey to a neighboring village. She had been visiting her own mother, unaware of the turmoil that had unfolded in her absence. Upon her return, the news of Amara's predicament hit her like a thunderbolt. Her heart sank as she imagined her daughter alone and helpless by the river. Wasting no time, she hurried to Amara, her feet moving swiftly with her mother's desperation and mother's concern. Arriving at the river, Oluchi's eyes filled with tears at the sight of her daughter stuck. Amara looked up, her face lighting up at the sight of her mother. Oluchi approached her, heart aching with love and worry. "My child," she whispered, her voice choked with emotions. Oluchi knew she had to act. She couldn't remove the cause, but she could make her daughter's ordeal more bearable. She sought out the village carpenter, a kind-hearted man who was moved by Amara's plight. Together they built a small shelter by the river, right where Amara was stuck. It wasn't too much, but it was a refuge, a place where Amara could find some reset from the sun and the cold night air. Oluchi then established a daily routine. Every morning as the sun rose, she would visit Amara, bringing her food and comfort. She would sit with her, talk to her, and keep her company, trying to bring a resemblance of normality to the surreal situation. The villagers watched and whispered, admiring Oluchi's dedication in the face of adversity. Her love for her daughter shone like a beacon. The story of Amara, the girl stuck in the river, and her devoted mother became a testament to the unbreakable bond between a mother and her child. As the day passed, Amara found strength in her mother's visit, but Oluchi provided physical comfort. Present was a balm to her soul. The river still held her captive, but she was no longer alone. In her mother's eyes, she found hope, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, love remains a powerful force, unwavering and true as the days melded into each other. Amara's plight continued, but her mother's visits were a constant source of comfort. Oluchi's, ever so thoughtful, realized the need for a secret code. The village was abroad with the tale of the girl stuck by the river, and curious visitors often approached shelter, some with good intentions, others merely to look to ensure Amara's safety and peace of mind. They needed a way of communication, a sign that it was indeed her mother at the door. So, Oluchi advised a simple but effective code. Before knocking, she would sing a little melody, a song she used to sing to Amara when she was a baby. It was a tone known only to them, a melody that carried memories of safer, happier times. And it goes like this: "My dear daughter, I am the one, your mother. I love you and I want you not to suffer. Please open the door. I am your mother." Oluchi, when you hear this song, my dear, you will know it's me, Oluchi told Amara, her eyes glittering with every morning as the first rays of the sun broke through the sky. Oluchi would approach the shelter, humming the melody softly. Hearing it, Amara would feel a wave of relief and open the door to welcome her mother. They would sit together, sharing food and stories. Their conversation abound for Amara's troubled heart. Oluchi would tell her about the happenings in the village, about the festival that continued despite the shadow cast by their misfortune. She brought news of friends and neighbors, snippets of everyday life that kept Amara connected to the world she was temporarily cut off from. In return, Amara shared her thoughts and fears, finding solace in her mother's wise words and gentle resonance. Their daily meetings were brief but precious. They laughed and cried, holding on to each other. Their bond strengthened in the face of adversity. Oluchi's unwavering support was a testament of a mother's love, a force so strong it could weather any storm. As the days turned into weeks, the villagers saw Oluchi's dedication grow her daily pilgrimage to the river. Her unwavering spirit became a symbol of hope and resilience. In their little shelter by the river, mother and daughter held on to each other, their love a beacon of light in the darkness of times. While the bond between Amara and her mother grew stronger with each passing day, Oge's heart grew darker with envy and spite. She watched from a distance, her mind twisted by jealousy. As the village praised Oluchi for her devotion, in her rapt view, everyone loved them both more, which was a slight against her, a reminder of her own failure to bring down Amara. Oge's bitterness knew no bounds. Sinister plan, one born from the depths of her malice. She started watching Oluchi's visits to the river, hiding behind the trees, her eyes narrowed with ill intent. It didn't take long for her to notice the pattern. The little melody Oluchi hummed before each visit. A wicked idea took root in her mind. On the final day of the festival, when the air was filled with a mix of exhaustion and relief, the village was distracted, caught up in the closing ceremony of the festival. It was the perfect time for her to act. She slipped away unnoticed, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and excitement. As she approached the shelter by the river, she mimicked the melody Oluchi used for her voice, a crude imitation of the gentle tune. My dear daughter, I am the one, your mother. I love you and suffer. I don't want you to suffer. Please open the door. I am your mother. Oluchi inside the shelter, Amara, hearing the familiar melody, felt a surge of joy. She stretched to open the door, expecting to see her mother's loving face, but to her horror, it was Oge's, who stood there with a malicious grin and a knife in her hand. Before the door could be shut, Oge, blinded by her rage, struck with the knife, but to her surprise, it wasn't Amara who opened the door. Unaware of her mother's wicked skies, had spent the night with Amara to keep her company in tragic case of mistaken identity. Blinded by her rage and jealousy, didn't realize her mistake until it was too late. The knife intended for Amara found its mark in Ugo, her own daughter. A cry of horror escaped Amara's lips as Ugo collapsed. The severity of the moment, the commotion attracted the villagers, including the prince and the king, who rushed to the scene in her own daughter's blood. The revolution sent waves of shock and anger through the village. The king, a just and fair ruler, decreed that Oge be banished from the land, never to return. Her actions had to only harm her stepdaughter, but had now tragically wounded her own child. As for Amara, the river's curse lifted on the seventh day as prophesied. She stepped free not just from the physical bonds, but also from the shadow of Oge's hatred. The prince, who had been a silent witness to the entire ordeal, stepped forward with the king's blessing. He reaffirmed his intention to marry Amara, recognizing her strength, resilience, and the purity of her heart. The story of Amara stuck in the river became a tale of triumph over adversity, of truth prevailing over deception. It was a tale that would be told for generations, a reminder of the dangers of jealousy and the power of love and righteousness. In the end, justice was served, and Amara's life, once overshadowed by stepmother's scheme, was light with the promises of happiness and horror and honor. I hope you enjoyed this tale. If so, please subscribe this video, subscribe to this channel, and turn on your notification bell so that you won't miss out when we're uploading another one. Enjoy this one.